In June of this year, I got into photo shoot condition and about 10% body fat. And in this very video right here, I'm gonna go through the exact systems, lessons, and processes that I learned along the way so you can install that into your fitness routine right now. Let's dive in. Boom, yes team, what is going on? My name is Sharif Lawton, coach and founder of 23 Lean, the coaching company which really focuses on the other 23 hours of the day rather than just the 1 hour in which you're in the gym. Of course, we focus on training, but a big emphasis is on nutrition, lifestyle, mindset, and the identity shift in which you're going to need to become the very best version of yourself. Now, I coach typically men and women in their 30s and their 40s, all online, making sure that they are exactly where they need to be and cultivating a plan which really complements rather than complicates their already busy lifestyle in this new season of life in which they're probably finding themselves in, juggling all the different plates of family, social, and work life, and still getting some absolutely killer results across the board. So if that's you and your situation, you're going to want to sit in, dive in, hit that subscribe button, and make sure that you're locked into the content because this is going to be absolutely gold for you. Now, truth be told, I've been in the fitness industry literally my entire life, and I've done bodybuilding shows. I've gotten into really good shape before for photo shoots, but this year was a little bit different. You see, this is not something in which I could replicate when I was in my 20s. In my 20s, I had all the time in the world, no responsibilities. I could wake up when I wanted to, do my cardio when I wanted to, train when I wanted to, eat when I wanted to, because I didn't really have anything much else going on other than just one-to-one training my coaching clients when I was a personal trainer. However, now, very busy business, incredibly busy family life, trying to manage socials the best that I can and trying to be a good husband and son and dad to the best of my ability as well. And therefore, things had to be very, very different in this new paradigm of my life. And I'm gonna go ahead and share the very lessons which allowed me to still get into incredible condition and lose about 10 kilos over the course of 9 weeks and get into that photo shoot shape. But also I didn't have to uphaul my whole lifestyle and turn it on its head. And I actually got some fantastic results in spite of being super busy. And in fact, I used it and leveraged that to my advantage rather than let it be a hindrance. But these next few things have honestly been game changers for me, so much so that whenever I go through another dieting phase, I'm definitely going to pay attention to this. So this is more of a record for me as much as it is for you, because I want to make sure that I'm getting in shape in the most successful, easiest, and fastest way possible. And I think with these 5 things locked in your routine, you're going to be able to achieve the same thing as well. Now, just before we get into any of this, much like I talked about in the last video, if you are brand spanking new to the world of body recomposition, muscle gain, fat loss, all that good stuff, and you don't really know what you're doing, or you might be a little bit confused, some of these tips might go over the head of you, or at the very least, they might be missing the forest for the trees or putting the cart before the horse. Because the reality is, you still need the basics and fundamentals of fat loss before you start getting into the weeds with these little intricacies and what have you, which are going to cause that shift from, good to great. But the reality is, if you still don't understand the words like protein intake, calorie deficit, energy balance, and stuff like that, I would actually suggest that you pause this video for now, go ahead and look at the description below, download my fat loss formula for free, which is going to allow you to torch the next 10 to 20 pounds of fat completely for free and on your own, or for my UK lot, that's roughly 5 to 10 kilos. And then you can start to understand some of these intricacies, which are really going to help move the needle and take you from good to great. Okay, cool. So the first shift, or the first big thing which I did differently this time around compared to other preps, is the fact that I had almost solely a whole food diet. Now I'm talking single ingredient, whole nutrient dense foods in which you can typically find around the outer perimeter of the supermarket aisle. So, we're thinking things like oats, potatoes, fruits, lean meats, Greek yogurt, dairy products, vegetables, salads, that sort of stuff. And the reality is, yes, in the past that had made up maybe 70 to 80% of my diet, but then some processed stuff would sneak in, even if it was still within my caloric allotment, protein bars, protein shakes, and what have you. And I was really kind of aiming for convenience more than anything. However, this time I really made a commitment to almost solely eat whole foods. And I cannot tell you the difference in fullness, in mental cognition, in clarity, in energy, in recovery from my workouts. And I do put it down to the increased micronutrition which I was getting from these food groups, vitamins, minerals, phytonutrients, fiber, all that good stuff, which is typically not found in the processed stuff. So don't get me wrong, protein shakes, protein bars, there's nothing wrong with them inherently, but at the same time, they are very, very poor when it comes to satiety or how full that food makes you feel. And if we consider that the biggest killer of any calorie deficit of any diet is literally how full or how hungry you are on an hourly basis, then this really, really matters. because throughout the whole process, and even as I was getting pretty damn lean, I was never really hungry. Whereas that had been the biggest killer for me in the past, which has oftentimes caused me to snap, binge, break, and maybe just give in to some cravings, which I genuinely didn't have any of this time around. And I can't see myself dieting or trying to get in shape any other way moving forward, apart from using these whole foods. Number 2 was my step count. Now, of course, I had a step count before, and I hit my 10K steps. And to be fair, the weather was nice and it wasn't chucking it down like it is right now in the miserable UK. But when I was in this fat loss phase for this photo shoot prep, I actually committed to 12 to 15K steps every single day rather than 10K. And if you don't know by now, I'm a huge fan of steps, because literally the only downside is the fact that they take time. The upsides are the fact that there is no increase in hunger after this form of cardio. It is very good for you in terms of your mental health and your physical health. It doesn't impact your weight training, and therefore it's not going to impact your recovery or anything like that. And ultimately it's something which you can now perform daily, in which I did. And it really stopped any form of metabolic slowdown, because I was still active outside that 1 hour in which I was in the gym for 4 days a week. The reality is, HIIT cardio and different bits and pieces like your classes and your boot camps and your spin and all the rest of it, it has a recovery cost associated with it. And if that's now affecting the very thing which is going to cause you to change and shape your physique the most, aka resistance training, in my opinion, we could be missing the forest for the trees. Not to mention that any other time which I've included a lot of that type of cardio, I have been ravenously hungry. And what is the point in burning an extra 200 calories by that sort of cardio if it's going to cause you to eat an extra 1,000 because you're now so damn hungry? Get to step in, really increase that step count above and beyond what you think you can do. You can track it off an Apple Watch, a Fitbit, whatever, and ultimately your fat loss will be humming along at a very predictable and seamless rate throughout the whole process. I could not recommend this very easy hack more. Number 3, and this has got nothing to do with training, nutrition, or lifestyle management. I actually did this photo shoot prep with my wife, and I helped her get in shape along the process as well. And I cannot tell you again how much easier that made the whole thing. Now, if you have a partner or someone you are close with, if they at the very least understand what you are doing, and they're not going to be the ones to offer you pizza on a Friday night and a bottle of wine, which maybe you would have said yes to before, because they understand the mission, the vision, and the goal, then essentially you're both going to be on the same path. And ultimately they can really support you and help you in those moments whereby you maybe do want to miss a training session. You can't be bothered to go get those steps in. And you might not want to eat the most healthiest food, or indeed the food which aligns with your goals. But at the very least, even if they're not on board with what you're doing and this is your journey, telling them what you're doing, giving them an end date as to when this process will be done, because ultimately deadlines drive decisions. And that was another big thing as well for me. I knew when the photo shoot was, I knew when I had to nail it by, and it was a case of working back from that, but I digress. But ultimately making sure that they're on the same path as you, so that they know that you are going to need support, because no man is an island. And even if they are on their own journey and what have you, letting them know what you're doing, why it's important to you, and how they can best support is going to be key. It is very, very hard to stay focused on your food, to stay focused on your nutrition, on all the things you have to do, when the other person really just wants to cuddle up and eat ice cream and, are on a completely different wavelength. And so the fact that both me and my wife were fully focused, fully on it, on the same mission and vision, it honestly made things so much easier, because when I was slipping, she picked me up a little bit. When she was struggling, I would pick her up a little bit, and it just made for this beautiful camaraderie, and we both really had each other's backs throughout the process. So I couldn't make that more important in terms of the journey. Be around people who get it. And if it's not a spouse, then the internet is right there in front of you. This YouTube channel, get in and amongst people who understand and get it and are going to push you further, because without that, it's very easy to let yourself off the hook. It's very easy to give in to self-sabotage, and it's very easy to just self-soothe with behaviors which are ultimately going to take you further away from your goals, which is why community and your environment is essentially the invisible hand which shapes success, just like James Clear says. So get in and amongst the people who actually get it, are going to stretch you and are going to hold you to that higher standard. Absolute game changer. And then the last thing that I did very differently this time around compared to other preps and what have you, is all to do with my training volume and intensity. You see, as we get deeper into that calorie deficit, as there's less body fat on us and therefore less energy, you can start to really struggle with the higher rep ranges in the gym, like your 12s, your 15s, your 20s, and also the amount of sets in which you normally would do if you are well fed or in a calorie surplus or what have you. So, it was a case of I was getting 1 to 2 really good sets in, in, and then I noticed performance would start to drop off. So rather than now try and, jump on a ship that's already sailed and just do a bunch of, junk volume and poor volume in the gym, I really focused my efforts on intensity rather than volume. So what I mean by that is the sets in which I could do, because I had the available energy to do so, I was really pushing to failure. I was going 1 to 2 working sets per exercise, but honestly, there was nothing left in the tank. I was fully focused on what I was doing, had a great mind-muscle connection, and most importantly, I was pushing to failure. So those last few reps felt very slow, grindy, and sticky, and it wasn't a case of that I could have done more and more and more. And research is very clear now that it's the last few reps that you do which really drive the adaptations in which you want, and just by doing a bunch of volume, that's not necessarily going to take you towards where you want to go, especially when you are under conditions of limited energy. And you know that instinctively, because if I gave you a Coke can and asked you to curl it 500 times, you would probably have a sore bicep the next day, but would you see any growth? No, because those reps are so far away from failure and far away from the reps which are actually going to cause you to see some growth. So actually, you'll be better off training harder in lower rep ranges and really going for it and pushing hard in the sets in which you were able to do. And the beautiful thing about this is, and for a lot of my clients, is they're in and out the gym a lot quicker. It's not a case of endless amounts of sets and 20 plus sets per body part, but the reality is we're hitting muscle groups frequently, intensely, and also we're in and out the gym a lot quicker, which didn't make me resent the process in any way, shape or form and pull me away from family or pull me away from work, because I was focused on quality rather than quantity. And honestly, moving forward, I don't think I'm going to train any different when it comes to being in a deficit and a dieting phase. And I'm sure you would agree, the before and after pictures are absolutely solid. I was really pleased with the process and the progress. And honestly, there's more lessons and tips and tricks in which I could give you, but I'm going to wrap up the video just there in the hope that you can take at least one thing away and utilize it in your own fitness and fat loss journey, which is really going to help. So team, if you've not done so already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It will mean a lot to me. Really going to commit to this long form stuff, which I am enjoying on YouTube and the podcast and what have you. Catch me on Instagram, where I'm more active normally on a day-to-day at Sharif Lawton. Jump into my DMs, let's have a conversation, and make sure you use some of the free resources below and get downloading some bits and pieces to get you moving forward fast. I'll talk to you very soon. Catch you in the next video. Have a great week. Train hard, eat well, sleep well, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.